At this time, I call the Wednesday, November 16th, 2022 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Joanne Chester? Here. Just remember to turn on your mic when you speak.
Here.
Ashley McLaughlin? Here. Adam Roosh?
Here.
Nancy Utman?
No, it's Nancy.
Nancy Utman?
Here. Present.
Charles Wormrun?
Here.
And Harvey Welsh.
Here, we have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
All right. This time, we take up the minutes from the October 19th, 2022 regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I move that we approve the minutes from the October 19, 2022 regular meeting.
Do we have a second? It's been moved and seconded. And roll call again? Or, no, I guess we don't need to, do we?
No, I think we do that.
The minutes are approved.
Do you want to do a voice vote? Just everybody who...
Yeah, we can do that. Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. If every... Yes, okay.
Aye.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any communications that we need to be aware of?
I have received 2 letters of support in favor of Mr. Reynolds' application for the variance at 705 South Urbana Avenue, one of which is the neighbor directly to the south who would be nearest to the garage. And those are included in the packet.
Are there any continued public hearings? No. Then at this time, we will call for hearing ZBA 2022 Major-07, a request by Richard Reynolds for a major variance to allow a garage 3 inches from the south property line at 705 South Urbana Avenue in the R3 single and 2-family residential zoning district. We have a staff report.
Yes. All right, thank you all for being here. This is a request by Richard Reynolds, owner of 705 South Urbana Avenue, for a major variance to allow a garage 3 inches from the south property line. The zoning ordinance allows accessory structures such as garages to be placed no closer than 18 inches to the property line, so a major variance is required. A quick note on zoning ordinance definitions. Yard requirements for accessory structures are measured from the nearest point on the structure to the property line. The south wall of the proposed garage would actually be 9 inches from the property line and would have an overhang that extends another 6 inches. So as far as the zoning ordinance is concerned, the garage would be 3 inches from the property line. There's an existing garage on the property, which also has a wall 9 inches from the property line, and its overhang is approximately on the property line. So the proposed garage would have a wall the same distance from the property line as the existing garage, but its overhang would be 3 inches further from the property line. So technically it would be farther from the property line. With that said, staff find that the request meets the criteria for a major variance based on the existing lot configuration and the long presence of an existing garage already very near the property line, and recommend that the Zoning Board of Appeals forward the case to City Council with a recommendation of approval. The neighboring property owner to the south has provided a letter of support for the application, as has one other member of the public. You can see the property here on Urbana Avenue east of Vine Street between Oregon and Washington Streets. And the existing driveway and garage are south of Mr. Reynolds' home on the property. The property and all the immediately surrounding areas are all zoned R3 single and 2-family residential. This is a site plan provided by the applicant showing the approximate lot configuration. The location of the proposed garage is in red. You can see that it would be placed 10 feet west of the existing garage, but would be about the same distance from the south property line. The existing garage is a 2-car garage, but Mr. Reynolds would like to rebuild it a bit larger to allow room for 2 cars and yard equipment, which the existing garage can't do. The existing garage is also over 70 years old and is not in great condition. The new garage would still be within the size limit for accessory structures. This is a photo provided by Mr. Reynolds to demonstrate why he wants to apply for this variance instead of just complying with typical setback requirements for accessory structures. The existing driveway on the lot is aligned with the current garage. Directly north of the driveway, in the background, you can see stairs and a window well that are connected to the south end of the property. The two posts in the foreground of the photo show the approximate locations of the north wall of the proposed garage, either with the variance on the right or in compliance with typical setback requirements for accessory structures on the left. You can see that even with the additional width on the proposed garage, the north wall would still approximately align with the reach of the stairs and the window well. Otherwise, if he had to comply with typical setback requirements, the garage would be further north of the stairs and window well, which would increase the difficulty of maneuvering around those stairs and window well and potentially require placing the garage further west, increasing the expense of the project. Staff find that the criteria for a variance have all been met. You can find the full reasoning for each criterion in the staff report, but to summarize, there are the particulars of the lot configuration that we just went over in that photo. And then as far as neighborhood character and any potential nuisance go, East Urbana is an old neighborhood with many garages that predate current zoning regulations and are on or near the property line. Some of these garages are on the same block. The lot in question already has had a garage very close to the property line for a long time, and the neighbor to the south bordering the garage has written a letter of support for Mr. Reynolds' application. With that in mind, staff are recommending that the Zoning Board of Appeals forward the proposed major variance to City Council with a recommendation of approval. ZBA has the options of forwarding it with a recommendation of approval or forwarding it with a recommendation of approval with certain terms and conditions, if so, articulating those terms and conditions, or you may vote to deny the request, and if so, articulate findings supporting the denial. And requests require a 2/3 vote to be forwarded to City Council with a recommendation of approval. And this would go to Council on the November 28th Council meeting. I believe Mr. Reynolds just arrived and can answer any questions directly. Otherwise, I can take questions for staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Hearing none, thank you. Mr. Reynolds, do you wish to be heard?
I just have one question.
Of the staff or Mr. Reynolds?
Well, could go to staff.
I'd start with him.
Nancy, is your mic on? Sorry.
Sorry. This is just a kind of a question, but the man who writes in favor said there is an existing alley that they share. I don't see the alley on the map at all. If you look on the last page of this, and is that a
Sure.
problem?
I can pull up the map here. I would defer to Mr. Reynolds, though, for any questions about the shared alley.
Mr. Reynolds, I think I'd just swear you in anyway. You swear or affirm that any testimony you give tonight will be true and accurate to the best of your belief? Thank you. Nancy, go ahead if you have a question for...
I'm just wondering about the shared alley.
You can come sit down, Mr. Reynolds, if you want.
So there is a shared alley. It's not a city alley. It comes in off of Oregon It is the only access for the driveway and garage for 303 Oregon. It is the only access for 702 South Vine. That is where their parking and garage is. The overhead doesn't show their garage. It was just put in last year. Also 704 South Vine. That is the only parking that they have, is through that shared driveway on, that comes in off of Oregon. Many years ago, that came in off of Oregon and went out onto Vine. That was before, obviously, the building that sits there now was built. The only place I've ever found that in a legal description is for the duplex that sits directly south of, directly west of me, B 702. The legal description, they had a survey done there when that duplex was built. And that survey mentions the 12-foot easement for an alley that enters on Oregon and exits on Vine. I would assume that when the duplex was built, the great big one that sits just east of 702, I would assume the portion that goes out on Vine would be closed because there's maybe only 15 feet between those two structures.
This wouldn't interfere with the alley or anything?
No.
Go ahead, Joanne. Go
I think I
ahead,
can
Joanne.
see the alley on the map. You
I
know,
don't see any alley on the map.
below his house, the yellow, you know, things.
Certainly got it coming from Oregon.
Yeah, but I can see where it, I think it went,
Yeah.
Comes here, it comes here off of Oregon, behind these houses, down there.
Yeah, if you look, where's the pointer? So right here, that is where you come in off of Oregon. This is the house. This is the garage for that house. That's the only way they can get to their garage. Same with this property. This is 702 Vine. It's not in this picture, but they have since put a garage right here. That is the only access for them. And then same with 704, they have a parking area right here. It's not gravelled very well. It's gravelled pretty well up to here. But it actually, at one point, ran all the way through here and came out here. If you go back, just out of curiosity, I went back and looked at the old overlays from like the 50s and the 60s. I don't believe it was ever fully gravelled. It was never paved, but you could see the path where the tire marks were, where people were
did you,
driving it now.
did you see any lines that it showed an existing alley, you know, like,
On the overheads?
yeah,
No. The only place I've ever seen that description is in the survey that's attached to the legal description for 706 South Vine. There is on the back of the deed in the legal description, there's a second page that was a survey that mentions the 12-foot wide alley that enters on Oregon and exits on Vine.
I will say that these are property tax maps, that in the basis is a property tax number that was assigned in the 70s, and a lot of, anything that was, they couldn't figure out, they just didn't deal with it.
Probably.
And they wouldn't,
Probably, but
Unless-
to be clear, I'm not using the alley to access my garage. I'm
Right.
using my driveway on Urbana.
Right, somebody uses the alley.
Yes, several people.
No other questions.
Are there, excuse me, are there any more questions for Mr. Reynolds? No. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Well, I believe that concludes any testimony regarding this particular case, so we were ready to call the question.
I move that we approve the variance, we forward the case to City Council with a recommendation to approve the variance with the condition that it generally conform to Exhibit C, the garage site plan. for the case of ZBA-2021-Major 01.
It's been moved. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, I believe then we're ready to call this for a vote.
Joanne Chester,
Yes.
Ashley McLaughlin,
Yes.
Adam Roosh,
Yes.
Nancy Utman,
Yes,
Charles Warmbrun,
Yes.
Harvey Welch.
Yes, that motion carries unanimously, so the case will be forwarded to the city council. You said November
28th.
28th meeting. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Is there any old business? Any new business? Other than Mr. Reynolds, we have no one in the audience, so no audience participation. Is there a staff report?
No.
Study session?
Nope.
Then I'm moving that we adjourn and send you all back out into the cold.